As I was just coming up and prepping for this session, I went into AI and asked it, tell me something interesting about Puneet Chandok at Microsoft. And what it came back and told me is that he's the president of Microsoft India and South Asia, which we all know. But he's also known for his views on artificial intelligence and its impact on careers and economy. He believes that AI fluency is a critical skill for career growth and that hands-on experience with AI tools is essential, likening it to how one cannot get fit by simply watching others go to the gym, but instead having to go to the gym themselves.
I try that all the time.
Good.
I sit next to the gym, I don't get fit.
It shows.
I don't get fit by that.
So, of course, Microsoft has been in the AI game very early on through the partnership with ChatGPT. And also, there's a rich history at Microsoft of being a platform provider, helping other companies deploy platforms at scale. So when you think about the evolution of AI platforms in particular, to support very purpose-built enterprise-grade solutions, what has the journey been like for Microsoft in this new AI world? And what are the patterns that you're seeing in terms of what drives successful adoption? And are there lessons and parallels that you can draw in this post-AI world that applied back when, for example, cloud, when Microsoft was getting into cloud in a big way?
No, listen, fascinating question, and I'll start with the whole patterns of adoption, and then I'll come to Microsoft and lessons and learnings. I think on patterns of adoption, something interesting is happening, Hari, in this world, which is we're seeing the rise of what we call frontier firms. So like we have frontier models now, we have this concept that we're now calling, which is frontier firms, and these firms are different in a few ways. And I'll tell you three things which blow my mind. First is these firms are thinking about intelligence on tap. And let me ask you a question today, right? Which is, if you had to put intelligence to work in any organization today, how would you do it?
Sorry,
if you had to put intelligence to work in your team, how you typically will hire people, create a team?
Yeah, so typically, at Walmart, we are always people-led and tech-powered.
Yeah.
So we look at tech as an empowerer of people. So it will start with talent and people. It will start about skilling them, hiring the right people, providing the right training and skills to them, eventually placing them in the right places in the organization.
Fantastic. So that's how we currently put intelligence. I do the same at Microsoft. You've got a problem, new business, something to do. You hire a team, you pull people together, you get them going, right? What these frontier firms are trying to do is something different, which is, can we have intelligence on tap, which is, can we move intelligence from this scarce, hard to get commodity to something which is abundant, which is on tap, right? Which is, and you need intelligence to solve a problem for the next 7 days, 3 hours a day, you get intelligence to work. And which goes back to this thesis of AI, which is, do we have the ability to manufacture intelligence for the first time as humankind? Intelligence is the most precious commodity we know, but do we have the ability to do this? So one is, I think they're thinking deeply about how do you get intelligence to work for you. Second is this piece around what you and I were talking outside, which is digital colleagues joining the workforce. So we all see human labor, we see teams of people. Can you have digital colleagues join the workforce now? And the unlock there, Hari, is, which is, can you start thinking of AI not just as a tool now, but as a teammate? So you staff a team, you'll have 5 engineers and you'll have 20 agents. Now this has, and by the way, the current set of agents that we've seen so far are a little primitive, but the new generation of agents that we're now talking about, that we're building as Microsoft, are autonomous agents which can goal seek in an unstructured environment, go solve the problem for you, take all the noise out and come back and say, hey boss, I've got something interesting for you. The second is just really thinking about human and agents together and digital colleagues joining the workforce. And then third is culture, which is, if you look at tech, right? Tech is moving at the speed of 10x every year. So there are 10 releases at least at OpenAI every year. Culture, if you're lucky, is moving at 1x. But how do you really think about culture in this new context of where your employees need to work with agents, they need to skill in a different way, all of us need to learn.
Yeah.
But I think those three things, which is intelligence on tap, digital labor, digital colleagues joining the workforce, and then thinking about culture and leadership in a different way. And then finally, as Microsoft, we are a platform product company. Once again, thank you for having me here. Love the partnership, really appreciate what we are doing with Walmart. But our job is to create the right platforms, to create the right agent factories for all of these frontier firms, so that every employee in the organization can not just work with agents, but build agents. And this dream of digital labor joining the workforce becomes a reality. So that's what we do at Microsoft.
The really interesting point you made is about culture, right? I think At Walmart, we've always prided ourselves on our values and our culture and the way we bring our values to life every day through our culture. So as you think about AI agents, and as you think about agents working hand in hand with people, particularly as you think about not just developer roles, but roles that are intrinsically non-developer or non-technical. So think about a Walmart associate who's in a store, serving customers or stocking shelves. How do you see this role of AI agents shaping the culture? Do you see that aiding and reinforcing the culture that exists? Or do you see it changing the culture over time? And how do you ensure that the culture of the company remains true and the values remain timeless and the purpose of the company remains timeless even as we deploy AI at scale?
No, it's a fascinating question. And by the way, culture today, I think, is more important than ever, right? And going back to tech is moving at 10x and culture is moving at 1x if you're lucky, how do you really... So I'll tell you just 2 or 3 ideas that we are thinking about. So for example, the first thing, right? We're all used to having a human resource department and an IT department. Now, if you have humans and agents working together, should we have an intelligence resource department? I'm making it up. But should we have HR and IT come together, and there's a team that manages humans and agents together? So I think that's the first thing to kind of think about. Second, going back to this mindset, right, which is the real unlock on AI is when it moves from a tool to a teammate, from a tool to a digital colleague, and that's a mindset shift. Like, this is the biggest behavioral change management challenge of our lives. When I'm looking at the audience, I can promise each one of you today that if you're willing to work with AI, if you're willing to work with co-pilots or whatever tools you use, there's 30% productivity for you today. 30% productivity. Right? But you have to be willing to work with this, right? And it's a mindset shift. The first time the prompt doesn't work, keep trying. And that's how you get better at this technology. So how do you bring a generation of people to work with agents with the right growth mindset, the real learning mindset? I learn an hour every day and I'm always behind. And going back to this piece around you can't get fit by watching others go to the gym, are you going to the gym every day on learning? And how does, from a culture perspective, how do you drive that? And then finally, the last point is leadership, right? Like, you have to realize everybody who's walking to the doors of your company today is more restless than ever. Right? Everybody's thinking about skills and jobs, and people like me are thinking about skills and jobs for my kids, and the next generation, we're all overthinkers. But if people are restless, there's more uncertainty, there's the tech speed of change, which is unlike we've seen anything before. How do we as leaders, we show up with even more empathy, a lot more understanding, a lot more listening, versus taking decisions without really kind of thinking that through, right? So I think all of that coming together is where culture is headed.
And I think, when you talk about empathy and listening, there's another aspect to it, right? So for global companies, particularly that operate across regions, across different functions, thousands of teams, and Microsoft, I know, is a extremely geographically distributed organization. As you're looking to drive the adoption of AI very deep into the organization in such a globally dispersed teams, in a very globally distributed environment, that comes with its own unique challenges. And particularly for a company like yourself, it's not just about you doing it within your own company, but also enabling and teaching others to essentially follow by leveraging the platforms and the methodologies that are coming up. How do you think about that, and what's been your approach inside Microsoft to really deal with that complexity and overcome that complexity of driving adoption and change at such a massive scale in a very globally distributed organization?
So I'll say 3 things. I think the first is, for me, when it comes to AI, I think the first principle I use at myself, personally for myself and at Microsoft, is belief comes before ability, right? So before we talk about learning AI and skills, it starts with belief, which is, do you really believe this technology can help you and be a partner? And so I start there. And by the way, the results are very clear. And I'll give you some Microsoft data to bring this to life. For all the salespeople, Hari, today that are using AI at Microsoft, they're creating 9.3% more top line. They're closing deals 20% faster. So if you're running a business, $100 in India, that's $9 more of top line, right? So just as an example, right? Customer service, customer resolution rate is going up by 12%. Building products and coding, we've gone to public with this, but a third of our code last year was written by GitHub Copilot, a third of our code at Microsoft, and we've shipped more products last year than the last 5 years combined. So I think the first is bringing this to life and creating belief in, we've got 25,000 engineers in India. Globally, we're obviously a massive organization like you guys, but how do you make sure that everybody believes this works for them? So I think that's the first thing that it starts with. Second is, Like, I'll give you an example. Yesterday, my office, my team that works with me closely showed me the org chart. And by the way, we should stop using org charts. We should have work charts now. But they showed me the org chart where we had a few colleagues of mine, and then we had an agent show up in the org chart. And the agent is called Tara for some reason, but basically really thinking about each and every person in the company, either hiring or building a digital colleague. And that's my test, right? So the question I ask everybody, including myself, is, am I really getting AI to work with us with digital colleagues? And I think that's the second thing that's really important. And then third is, folks, I'll go back to this piece around learning. If you're not learning AI, and if everybody at Microsoft is not learning, I was at a company this morning where they're saying 100% of our people have to be AI certified by the end of the year. And not just AI certified to tick the box, but genuinely get AI to work for you. If you're not learning, you will fall behind. You will not be relevant. So how do you make sure everybody in the company, this is the time to be growth mindset oriented more than ever.
Yeah.
And really, if you're not learning, you will fall behind. And I tell my teams the opposite of knowledge on AI is not ignorance, it's the illusion of knowledge. Sometimes we believe that we have knowledge on AI and we get it. I can promise you nobody gets it. We're all learning. I think those three things.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think at Walmart it's the same, right? We're spending a lot of effort training our people, equipping them with the right tools, but really driving that mindset shift, and driving that culture of learning and continuous growth mindset. Because that's, today it's AI, tomorrow it's going to be a different piece of technology. Ultimately, that learning mindset is the most important thing.
Absolutely. And again, just given the crowd, right? I'll ask you another question. There's a GPQA test, Google Proof Q&A test, which is an interesting test of intelligence. And PhDs, when they take it in the subject that they're good at, get 80, 81%. When they take it in subjects they're not good at, they get 30%. O3 got 87% on it recently. And 87% on GPQA today aligns to roughly 150 IQ points. 150 IQ points. I'm assuming this is obviously a smart crowd, so I'm assuming the IQ in this room is 100, 110. But if each of you could walk away with another 40, 50 IQ points by using this technology, would you do that or not? I'm assuming the answer is yes. But for you to do that, you have to go learn, work with it, go to the gym, as Hari said, and get this to work for you versus the other way around.
You know, I think, obviously, we work very closely together. We partner on AI a lot. So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this two-part question. One is really about how is Microsoft helping its customers realize measurable impact from AI? You know, because you've been through, like I said, the journey with cloud. And I think with any new technology, there's the usual hype cycle and everyone is rushing to adopt it. But ultimately, it has to deliver measurable outcomes as well. And then the second, with AI particularly, because it involves automated use of data in ways that has not been imagined before. People are worried about things like privacy and governance. So how do you think about providing the appropriate tooling to ensure the responsible use of AI?
Yes, I think both great questions. I think on the first one, how's Microsoft really supporting customers? I think that at least, and I'll give you an India thing and I'll extrapolate it for the world. I think the first is infrastructure, which is, there's a generation of customers today, Sarvam, I think is in the room, I just met the founders outside, who are really thinking about building a set of LLMs or tweaking the right models for the Indian context. So really supporting them on the infrastructure layer. The second is applications and use cases. And there's a lot of AI washing going on. There's a lot of hobby projects going on. I was with somebody this morning who was showing me a picture that they created using AI of a cheetah wearing a backpack, inventing electricity and jumping off the rooftop. And they showed me a beautiful picture, but it didn't mean anything. Like just useless, right? But how do you really move from hobby projects to real ROI and driven use cases? And there are 4 areas that we're going after: productivity for every employee, customer experiences, innovation, and then of course driving completely different set of products and services that we've never built. But really focusing on that. And then third is, this world is getting complicated, right? There are 2,000 models today on Azure OpenAI. There'll be billions of agents. But creating the UI layer for AI so that every person can have a UI layer for AI, which is co-pilots. So I think that's a little bit of just the innovation that we're doing. To your last piece around security and governance, I think that matters more than ever. My biggest worry is shadow AI. Every company that I go to, I talk to the CEO, the CIO, the CTO, and my first question to them is, do you really know what's going on? Which is every employee in your company is using some tool, uploading documents and playing around with that data, and that should worry the hell out of you, which is how do we do this in a secure environment with the right guardrails, the right entitlements? Like, should your agent have the same entitlements as you? Or a different set of entitlements, right? Some of this needs to be discussed and debated and worked on. So doing this in a secure, trusted, enterprise-ready way so that we can build trust around this.
No, I think it's a great conversation, and thank you for sharing your thoughts, Puneet. You know, when I think about AI, like any technology, meaningful AI at the enterprise level is only going to come from solutions that are deeply integrated, generate value, and are essentially, built into the fabric of the enterprise. But a couple of other things that come to mind as I was listening to you. One, belief. You have to ensure that every one of your employees believe that AI can fundamentally transform their work, their lives, and that they can be a lot more productive as a result. And two, then translate that belief into action. In Puneet's words, it's not sufficient to watch others go to the gym. You have to go to the gym yourself, practice AI every day yourself, and that's how you'll continue to grow and learn every day. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Really
you for having me, and
appreciate
thank you for the partnership.
Thank you.
Wish you all the best, folks. Thank you, sir.